Hey, it's Easter week, and with lockdown and church buildings closed, I thought I'd give eight favourite Bible passages with something of my spiritual journey and vaguely connected with Holy Week. So I thought I'd start with what is actually an Easter Sunday reading, which is kind of the end of the story of Easter week, but it was the start of my spiritual journey. I first went to church as an adult, really to meet people, to meet girls. And I discovered people that had real faith in God. They actually thought God answered prayers. I thought, whoa, this is a bit weird. And someone said, why don't you read John's Gospel? So I did. I bought this NIV, New International Version Bible. It's now 40 years old, and read John's Gospel. John's Gospel is written later than the other Gospels, and it's more reflective, more thematic. John was probably quite an old man when he wrote this, but it's a beautiful gospel. And this is a little bit of the Easter story from John 20 on Easter Sunday. Then the disciples went back to their homes, but Mary stood outside the tomb crying. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb and saw two angels in white, seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and the other at the foot. They asked her, "Woman, why are you crying?" "They have taken my Lord away," she said, "and I don't know where they have put him." At this she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she didn't realise that it was Jesus. "Woman," he said, "why are you crying? Who is it you're looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you've carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned towards him and cried out in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Jesus said, "Don't hold on to me, for I have not yet returned to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I'm returning to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary of Magdala went to the disciples with the news, "I've seen the Lord," and she told them that he had said these things to her. So a bit of the story from John. And I think what came out to me as I sought spiritual truth before I became a Christian was that this felt like an eyewitness account. It's the women that see Jesus first, not Peter, who becomes the leader of the church, not the disciples. So why would they say that? If they'd made the story up, why would they have the women, and this is a very patriarchal society 2,000 years ago, why would they have that sort of key role? And Peter and the disciples actually come out really badly. Peter, they run away from Jesus. Peter denies Jesus. They're not quite sure what's going on. So again, why would they include that in the story if it was made up? And then the differences in the story. The four Gospels are all a little bit different. So Mark has 3 women seeing an angel, and Matthew has 2 women seeing an angel. And Luke has an unspecified number of women seeing 2 angels. And in John, it's Mary Magdalene who sees the empty tomb, goes and gets the disciples, and then hangs about after they've gone and sees the angel and Jesus. So it's all a bit different. Now, if you were making up a story, you'd make sure everything all tied up neatly. But this is a typical eyewitness account. As people recall 10, 20, 30 years later, they have slightly different memories of what happened from different perspectives. So it feels like an eyewitness account. And the final kind of clincher for me was the disciples, who were scared at their wits and ran away and hid in an upper room, and all of that suddenly were completely changed people and went and preached the gospel and mostly died pretty grisly deaths as a result. Why did they completely change? The implication of that, I think, is massive, and we're going to pick that up again in readings later in the week. So do join me for a brief reading each day over the next few days. Thanks.